Strange New World, Star Trek x Azur Lane Crossover, by Cassus Skirata. Chapter 9. Ask and ye shall receive. The shuttle landed with Wales and the others waiting below. They had received the report of the success of the mission as well as the retrieval of a strategic asset. But there was something that piqued their interests, and that was that they apparently recovered 2 consins that the Skirata Empire had captured and that they brought them back. Who do you think they brought back? I don't remember any of our own being listed as captured, NT said. I concur. Although they have said that they are friendly and are willing to fight with us, I suppose we should get to know them better with a tea party? Asked Illustrious. Wales gasped at Illustrious' question. She always had a thing for hosting tea parties. She was always a pure-hearted person in mind and soul. I believe they will be of great assistance if what is said about them to be true. Ah, here they come now. The shuttle door opened with Sheffield and Edinburgh exiting first, container in hand. We have returned, Miss Wales. Mission completed, stated Sheffield. Wales nods, smiling. Excellent work. About the prisoners you freed. Right over here, Miss Wales. She looks to see Enterprise with another person in a siren. NT immediately deploys her rigging and wields her bow, ready for a fight. Whoa whoa whoa. She's friendly. Enterprise immediately put herself in front of Jellyfish, waving her hands in front of her. I wasn't expecting for there to be this much hostility towards these sirens that you mentioned, Enterprise. Perhaps I should inquire as to more information about them, said Jellyfish in her usual stoic self. Jellyfish, in an act that surprised almost everyone present, walked forward despite having a weapon pointed at her. Greetings, I am the Vulcan research ship Jellyfish. It has come to my attention that I share the appearance of your enemy, and I shall state that I share no relation to them despite my appearance. I may also state that I wish to have a positive relationship for both political and scientific endeavors between both of our factions, and that we put this incident behind us, she stated calmly. The welcoming committee stood frozen in a stupor. Here came this siren lookalike who claimed not to be a siren but of a different alien race entirely and wanted to seek peaceful relations. Jellyfish started speaking again. I realize and am aware that I acknowledge this is in stark opposition to the Prime Directive, which colloquially states that contact with a pre-warp society is strictly forbidden as to not interfere with the natural scientific evolution of said society. But present circumstances have shown that cooperation with the native population is necessary for our survival and subsequent return to Starfleet in the Federation. I sincerely ask, if not beg, that we join in an alliance that will be mutually beneficial to both parties. She bows slightly, waiting for a reply. Wales opened her mouth to say something, yet no words were formed. She was at a genuine loss of what to say. A minute later, everyone had gathered their thoughts. We sincerely apologize for Enterprise's little outburst. Indeed, this has been but a misunderstanding on our part, and once again we apologize. We have all been on edge due to the nature of the mission as well as the fact that when 2 unknown consins were reported to have been rescued. I am Prince of Wales, the stand-in commander of this base. We welcome you, Miss Jellyfish. Jellyfish straightened herself and nodded before returning to Enterprise's side. So no problems between us, stated the second new consin as she exited the shuttle. No, I guarantee that there will be no problems between us. And who might you be, if I may? Wales asked. USS Franklin, ma'am. Hope we can get along, Franklin smiled as she stood out her hand. I believe we will just fine, Miss Franklin. Wales shook her hand. Franklin nodded before also returning to Enterprise's side. I'll have the both of them bunk with me so it's more convenient. There's enough space for a couple beds, so I hope you don't mind, Enterprise said. Wales shook her head. I'll have the other 2 beds set up quickly. There's still some time before the debriefing, so why don't you show them around? Enterprise smiled. Yes ma'am, now come along you two. Especially you Jellyfish, we need to get you a new uniform. I do not see how my current attire calls for a change. Enterprise gives a sweet smile. I stand corrected. This coat does indeed not fit the current outside climate. Personal note. Do not anger Enterprise under any circumstances, Franklin asserted to herself before walking away with them. The welcoming committee breathed a collective sigh of relief before Wales turned to NT. Please think before you act, Miss Enterprise. You almost cost us someone of very high value, Wales said as she looked at NT as if she's almost had enough of her antics. NT could only unsummon her rigging and lower her hat in embarrassment and shame. Shall we go prepare the debriefing? Illustrious asked. Wales nodded. Sheffield, Edinburgh with us please. They nodded as they went to prepare the debriefing. To say the situation in the Skirata Empire or the Crimson Axis as a whole is a bit chaotic would be an understatement. Ever since the incident during the meeting in the Sakura Empire, things have been everything but peaceful. With the incident regarding the Black Wisdom Cube being stolen right under their noses as well as the new console possibly making an appearance while all of that was going on, it was quite easy to understand why it was so chaotic. Currently, another meeting between the Crimson Axis leadership is being held. This time, they were planning on how to retrieve the Black Wisdom Cube from Azur Lane's hands. This situation has escalated, as such it requires immediate intervention. We cannot allow a piece of our technology to be in the hands of Azur Lane, addressed Bismarck. Nagato nodded. I concur. This has been a massive embarrassment towards the Sakura Empire, and we seek to right our wrong by offering a proposal. If we are to retrieve the stolen cube, then we are to go on the offensive. Go on the offensive? Vittorio questioned. That is a massive risk we are taking, especially with that new console that has gotten everyone one edge. If it is a unified offensive you are reflecting, Miss Nagato, then I am sorry to say that the Sardegna Empire already has a lot on its plate with the sirens in the Mediterranean. Those two factors make for a situation I don't see as worth spending our already limited reinforcements. It's the same for the Vichia Dominion, sadly, Jean Bart stated. As much as I want to personally join the offensive, Reed have a personal rematch against Massachusetts. The Iris Libre has been making moves and I can't risk sending anyone your way. The Dominion wants to have everyone on board for the defense and subsequent counterattack. Nagato bowed her head. It's all right, I understand your circumstances. As a result, the Sakura Empire shall carry out this operation alone. We shall scramble our fleet once our plan pertaining to the operation is completed and agreed upon. Bismarck nodded. Seeing as we have covered the necessary topics, this meeting is adjourned, dismissed. Everyone but Nagato stood up and left the room. Once it was empty, Nagato let out a weary sigh. This war had taken a toll on their resources as well as morale. She could tell that some within the Empire didn't exactly approve of the split, and with the recent Black Cube incident, there has been a wave of doubt as to whether or not the Crimson Axis could truly win this war. Lady Nagato, are you well? Asked Kawakaze. Nagato closed her eyes and sobbed. She opened her eyes, her professional facade dropping and revealing how tired she was. No, Kawakaze, I do not believe so. This conflict has left me tired. More so, it has led me to yet again question if we indeed make the right choice. I go wherever you go, Lady Nagato. Your word is my sword as I am your shield. Nagato smiled. Your loyalty has never been in question, Kawakaze. The situation has just been stressful as of late, and, if hearsay is to be believed, my command is coming under scrutiny. Oh, for what will it take to get a taste of the Royal Navy's pastries, she said as she yawned. Would you like me to escort you to your room, Lady Nagato? Kawakaze asked. Yes, please. I had just realized how little sleep I've gotten in the past few days. Nagato stood up as she headed to her room, her faithful bodyguard and escort. The meeting room was quiet as everyone present stared at the box that sat on the table. Wales broke the silence, starting the debriefing. What we have acquired is an important asset to the Crimson Axis war effort. The Black Wisdom Cube, as we've come to call it. Wales opened the box. It unfolds, revealing the rumored Black Wisdom Cube has been vital to their efforts as well as seems being the key to controlling their numerous siren mass-produced ships, according to our informant from the Sakura Empire. Akashi took the floor. This cube, NYA. I saw a siren give it to Akagi, NYA. A siren gave the cube to Akagi? Queen Elizabeth asked. Nice, Your Majesty, from what I saw they were using those cubes to power Project Orochi. And what is this Project Orochi you're talking about? Sounds quite important, Enterprise asked. From what I saw it was a ship, NYA, and it looked siren in design. It's also where I saw your two friends, NYA. A siren ship? That's not good. Not good at all, said Hornet. And we basically have the keys to start the damn thing. They'll want their toy back, and we have to be prepared to. Thump. Franklin was explained on how the Crimson Axis would want the cube back when a crash was heard. They all turned to see NT on the floor, black cube in hand. Panic ensued as everyone tried to figure out what had happened. It would seem as though she has made contact with this Black Wisdom Cube, stated Jellyfish. She approached NT and opened one of her closed eyes. She is unconscious, currently going through REM sleep if her eye movements are to be taken into account. What do we do with the cube then? Asked Cleveland. We can't just leave it in the open. I'll take it. Everyone turned to Enterprise. I have the most secure systems here. I also have artifact storage compartments as well as experience in handling such things. She turned to the cube. As for how we'll grab it. Use gloves. Edinburgh stated, I touched it and it didn't do that, perhaps it was because I had gloves on. I agree with Edinburgh's hypothesis. Direct contact with the artifact's surface theorized led to Enterprise's current state. Perhaps gloves will indeed prevent this from happening, Jellyfish responded. Enterprise nodded and reached into her uniform's pocket, pulling out a pair of engineering gloves. She slowly approached the cube, inching closer until she made contact. Nothing. She grabbed the cube and held it. Nothing out of the ordinary with it. Same shape and size as a regular wisdom cube except for coloration as well as an observable symbol, perhaps an insignia, at its center. Perhaps it has other properties that caused Enterprise's unconscious state, she inquired. This meeting has been adjourned due to an emergency, Wales said as she stood up. Someone take her to Vestal, please. I'll take it from here, no worries, my sis is stubborn like that, said Hornet. She picked up Entity in a bridal carry and walked out. Everyone except the Starfleet trio left as well. Don't worry you two, I'll handle the artifact. Now go out there and enjoy yourselves, yeah? Now that you say it, I could for a soak at the beach. Been a while since I've gotten wet, Franklin said with a grin. If that is what you wish Enterprise, then I will go find Akashi and help with scientific research. She had mentioned that there was a laboratory nearby which conducts Wisdom Cube research. I find it rather interesting of such a concept of data being compressed into the shape such as that of a cube as well as doubled as an energy source it could provide. Yeah, we get it, you don't have to spew all that science gobbledygook, Franklin said, interrupting Jellyfish. Very well then, I'll be off now. Just don't get into trouble, all right? Enterprise said. They both nodded as they left. Enterprise beamed herself up to her ship, navigating the halls to the artifact storage room. The small compartment opened as she put it inside. She closed it, locked it with a code, and left ready to enjoy the rest of her day. NT awoke, standing on a dark ocean. All around her, flames and siren shipwrecks littered the area. She looked around, the landscape unchanging. What is this? She thought to herself. She heard a sounds, almost like something being crushed. She walked along the oceanic dreamscape until she arrived at the source. Her eyes grew wide. Standing there was her. It was like looking into a twisted mirror as she observed this twisted and dark version of herself. Was this the future, her future? The twisted Enterprise dropped what she was holding. A siren humanoid drone. They were rare, but it wasn't uncommon to see them in the far north and south poles fighting against the Northern Parliament. That train of thought halted when the figure looked straight at her, as if. Can she see me? NT thought. War. Her twin spoke. War never changes. Oh, I'm afraid it does, sweetie, a new voice spoke. Well, more like boomed, for it was quite loud. And it seems it wasn't only NT who heard it, for her twin was also suddenly on alert. Reveal yourself, her twin shouted, looking all around. The voice seemed to giggle in amusement. I'm afraid I won't, sweetie, but I will be taking your friend here, the voice said again as NT's surroundings seemed to brighten. No, NT blinked and suddenly she found herself staring at a planet. No, she found herself staring at Earth. She couldn't help but felt a foreboding presence behind her. She slowly turned around and her blood froze. In front of her was a gargantuan ship. Spikes and other spire-like structures were all on the front like a gaping maw bearing many sharp teeth ready to swallow her whole. The ship released what looked like a long hose-like structure which dropped towards Earth. It was a while before it went slack and she could see what was an orange beam firing towards the surface. She heard the giggling again and turned to see a woman. She had a black trenchcoat with a collar that covered her neck. The coat itself was open, which revealed the black skin-tight bodysuit she wore beneath. But what was interesting were her facial features. Her eyebrows were pointed in a similar manner to Jellyfish's and covered by her knee-length jet black hair which turned green at the ends were pointed ears. Beautiful, isn't it? Such a place full of joy and laughter, she said. NT found that for all she tried she couldn't say anything in response. The woman then seemed to grin maliciously, her eyes growing insane. Now I shall have my revenge. I may have failed the first time, but with my new body my captain's plan shall finally come to fruition. Starfleet shall fall before it even exists. NT saw like the laser stopped before what looked like a capsule was dropped from the ship. A few moments later, Earth's crust seemed to crack, shifting until it seemed to implode upon itself. When the planet was finally destroyed, in its place stood a black hole. Her eyes could only widen and start to tear up as the woman's borderline insane laughter filled her ears before everything turned to black.